Hi, my name's Chaz, and you're watching Chaz's Languages. In this video, you'll learn greetings and basic phrases, personal pronouns, conjugating verbs in the present tense, and basic word order in German. Stay tuned. Hi you guys, thank you for watching and welcome to the first German lesson on the channel. Today we'll talk about basic greetings and phrases, personal pronouns, conjugating verbs in the present tense, and basic word order. So let's start off with basic greetings and phrases. The first one is hallo, which means hi, hello, something like that. That's hallo. There's also a different variant of it, which is hallöchen, and that's kind of like a more funny or cute way to say hello, but usually you would just say hello. Another way to say hello is grüß Gott, and that is actually used in southern Germany. So that's just another way of saying hello if you're in the southern part of Germany and you want to use a more dialect word, then you can go with grüß Gott. And then to say goodbye, you say auf Wiedersehen. That's usually a really formal way, or if you're not going to see someone for a long time. So for a more informal way, or if you just want to tell someone see you later, something like that, if you're going to see them in the next few days or whatever, then you can use tschüss, and that's more like see you later. And it's also a little bit more informal than saying auf Wiedersehen. And then along those lines is the word servus, which also means goodbye or see you later, but it's used in Austria. So if you're in Austria and you want to say goodbye or see you later, you can say servus. And then also a really common way to say goodbye or see you later is ciao. So that would be like see you later, something like that, ciao. And then if you want to say my name is, you could say one of two things. You could either say ich heiße or mein Name ist. And I don't really know which one is more colloquial or which one's more preferred in spoken language. Maybe mein Name ist, but both of those are options for saying my name is. And then if you want to ask someone else what their name is, then you can say wie ist dein Name if you're talking to someone informally, and wie ist ihr Name if you're talking to someone in a polite way or in a formal context. And then if you want to ask someone how they are, for the informal way, if you're just talking to friends or whoever, you would say wie geht es dir? Or a colloquial way of saying that is wie geht's? And then if you're talking to someone formally, and you want to be polite, then you can ask wie geht es Ihnen? And the next phrase is excuse me, sorry, something along those lines. If you bump into someone, if you need to get someone's attention, something like that, you can say Entschuldigung, and that's excuse me, sorry, etc. And then for the phrase where is blank, you say wo ist blank. Or if you want to ask where are, if you're asking about something in the plural, then you would say wo sind. And then the next phrase is one of my favorites in German. It is Prost, and that's like saying cheers. So if you're out drinking with your friends and you want to say cheers, you'd say Prost. Prost! Now let's move on to the personal pronouns. First one, I, is ich, and for you, du. For he, er, for she, sie, for it, es. And then for the formal you, you say sie, which is the exact same word for saying sie for she, except in this case you capitalize the s anywhere you put it in a sentence. So even if it's in the middle of a sentence or even at the end, if that may be the case, you would still capitalize the s. And then for we, it's wir. And for you guys or you all, it's ihr. And then for you all or you guys, but in a formal context, it's also sie. So sie is used for the formal singular or the formal plural. And in this case, you also capitalize the s. And then they is sie. And this one is not capitalized. So it's spelled the exact same way as she, but you'll be able to make the difference from the context of the sentence. And German is a little bit different from other languages because not only does it have that different word sie for the formal you, it also has different verb endings, but it's not as complicated as you think because a lot of the pronouns have the same verb endings, but we'll get into that in just a minute. And next I'll talk about how to conjugate the verbs in the present tense. So for the ich form, the verb ending is e, the letter e. So for the du form, the verb ending is est, or sometimes st, depending on the verb stem. For the sie es form, the verb ending is t, the letter t. And then the verb ending for sie, which is the formal singular or formal plural form of you, it's en, en. The verb ending for via is also en. And then the verb ending for ia is te, the letter T. And then for z, which means they, the verb ending is en, en. And the way you conjugate verbs in German is fairly simple. So all verbs in German end in en or the letter n, depending on how the verb is. So for most verbs, you just drop off the en or the n if it doesn't end in en and just the letter n, and then you add the appropriate verb ending for the different personal pronouns. So let's look at a few examples. So first, if you want to conjugate the verb sprechen, which means to speak, for the I form, you would take the pronoun ich for I, take the verb sprechen, drop off the en, and then add the for the ich form of the verb, and it becomes spreche. So together the phrase is ich spreche, I speak. And then if you want to conjugate the verb kommen, which means to come, for the Z form, which is the formal singular in this case, you take the pronoun Z, take the verb kommen, drop off the en, and then add en for the Z form, which in this case looks exactly like the infinitive, and altogether the phrase is Sie kommen, you come. And then for the verb wohnen, which means to live, if you want to conjugate it for the du form, you take the pronoun du, and then take the verb wohnen, drop off the en, and then add st in this case. Then for the verb trinken, which means to drink, if you want to conjugate it for it, you would take s, which means it, take the verb trinken, drop off the en, and then add the t ending for the third person singular. So altogether it becomes es trinkt, it drinks. Now there are several verbs in the present tense that either have a stem change or a vowel change, and it often involves either changing the vowel in the verb stem or adding umlauts to the vowel in the verb stem. And by adding those umlauts to the vowel in the verb stem, it changes the pronunciation of the vowel and therefore the pronunciation of the verb. But this verb stem change actually only happens in the du form or the s form. So for all the other forms in the present tense, for these verbs, you don't have to worry about adding the umlauts or changing the stem. They stay the same, which can kind of help differentiate the meaning of certain verbs since the er form and the s form both have the verb ending t. But also, the sentence context gives you a clue to what personal pronoun is being referred to. So let's look at a few examples. For example, for the verb treffen, which means to meet, and all the other forms for the personal pronouns, the e stays the same, but for the du and the s form, it changes to I. So for example, if you say you meet, it would be du triffst, or for she meets, sie trifft. And then for the verb fahren, it gets actually an umlaut for the du and s forms. So for example, you drive would be du fährst. For he drives, fährt. And the verb sprechen is a verb where the e changes to an I. So if you want to say you speak, you would say du sprichst. And then for she speaks, sie spricht. And then the last example for the verb geben, which means to give, if you want to say you give, you would say du gibst, or it gives, es gibt. And the most common verb stem change that you'll see is where verbs that have an a in the stem get an umlaut added, and verbs that have an e in the stem change from an e to an I. But remember, this is only in the du and s form. So for all the other personal pronouns, you don't have to worry about changing the verb stem for the present tense. And then I did want to go over real quick, there are actually two verbs in the present tense that are identical in the du and s forms. Those are essen, which means to eat, and lesen, which means to read. So for the verb essen, if you want to say you eat, it's du isst. And also for she eats, it's sie isst. So you can see it's both ist and ist for both personal pronouns. And then for the verb lesen, to read, you read is du liest, and then for she reads, sie liest. And this happens because usually you would add an st for the du form, But you can't do that in this case because for ist, for example, that would be adding a third s, and then for least, that would be adding a second s, and it just doesn't look right or sound right, and that's just the rules for those two verbs for the do and as the s forms. And then lastly, I'd like to go over the basic word order in German. So the German word order is the exact same as in the English. You have the subject first, then the verb in the second place, and then the object, time phrase, or place comes third. And of course, this is different for different types of sentences because you have long, complicated sentences. But for this example, we're just going to be looking at sentences with three basic parts: the subject, verb, and object. So for example, for the sentence, we drink coffee in German, you take the we personal pronoun wir, take the verb for to drink, which is German, trinken, conjugate it for wir, which is still trinken because it's the en ending, and then the German word for coffee is Kaffee, so together it becomes wir trinken Kaffee. So wir, the subject, trinken, the verb, and Kaffee, the object. But German has something different in which you can invert the object, time phrase, or place with the subject. And in that case, it changes the meaning of the sentence a little bit. It places emphasis on whatever you put first in the sentence. So for example, the same sentence, we drink coffee, wir trinken Kaffee, if you put Kaffee at the beginning, it would become Kaffee trinken wir. And I'll explain why the sentence changed like that. So whenever we invert a sentence like that, you take the object, the time phrase, or the place, put it in the first place of the sentence, and then the verb must come directly after that because the verb has to always, in most cases, be the second thing in a sentence. And then the pronoun comes directly after the verb. So that's why it's Kaffee trinken wir. And in this sentence, putting Kaffee in the first place places emphasis on that we're drinking coffee. So for example, if someone says, oh, you guys are drinking water, or if you just want to emphasize that you're drinking coffee, then you could put it first and you would say, Kaffee trinken wir. And then another example is with the sentence, he goes tomorrow. And that would be in German, geht morgen. And morgen means tomorrow in German. But if you want to invert that to emphasize that he's going tomorrow, you would put morgen in the first place, the verb geht, conjugated for in the second place, and then the subject in the third place. So the sentence would now be morgen geht and that's just emphasizing that he's going tomorrow. So for example, to emphasize that he's not going today, on Monday, on Saturday, etc. Well, that does it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed the first German lesson. Please give the video a like if you did, and make sure to subscribe for more German lessons. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.